So I didn't think we were gonna do anything live. I thought it's just, well, it's an offering of an album, but I just heard him the other day say that he wants to do some special concerts. So let's see.
Nessa terra desse jeito, já não sei viver.
Oi, gente, tudo bem? Sejam muito bem-vindos a mais um Universo Alpha. Hoje a gente vai conversar com a cantora e musicista Esperanza Spalding. Esperanza, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I wanted to start the talk by asking you about your friendship with Milton Nascimento. It's been a long run, 15 years, is that correct? Have you always thought of doing a project together? When did that idea came up?
Oh, yeah. Somehow this life has blessed me with encountering this special human. I'm at his house. He's over there. That's why I'm gesturing this way, because he's that way. And really getting to know him was very organic, I want to say. We have musician friends in common that made it possible for him to hear about me and for me to meet him. And there was a nice feeling there when we met, of course. I mean, I expect to feel that way because he's one of my heroes. And he invited me to play with him. That went well. He sang on my record in 2010, and just little by little getting to know each other, sharing music, listening to music, watching films. I never had the idea in my mind to make an album with him. That seems like far-fetched, you know? That would seem like, okay, you know, you already got your wish granted by meeting him and playing with him. Like, don't get crazy, you know? But it was his son who really just, at the end of his farewell tour, some of the last dates in the United States, I was a guest on those, and his son, after or before one of them, just casually said, oh, you should produce his next record. You should produce a record like you and him, you produce it, and it's you two, and do. And I took him very seriously and started planning it, you know, and then here we are.
And I wanted to talk, that's such a amazing sentence, just throwing something like that. Okay, just let's produce something together. I think it's amazing. And I wanted to ask you about the selection process, because the songs on the album, there are some songs that are classics from Milton's career. There are some songs that you composed, and there are some songs that are from other artists. How was the selection process to come up with the track list?
I had to say one thing first from your intro. I just had to say for the record that singers are musicians too. That always people say like, oh, singer and musician, but singers are musicians. Just to say. So the selection process, I mean, there's nothing that I can do that I could have done that would ever feel as perfect as how his music feels to me. So I had to let that go so that I didn't drive myself crazy, aspiring for something impossible, you know? So what I chose to do was first ask Milton, what songs do you want on the album? And he was very much like, oh, whatever, you know, whatever, you choose whatever you want. Except he wanted to do Earth Song, the Michael Jackson song. And he wanted to do a Beatles song. He wanted to do A Day in the Life. So that's how those happen. Then since it was just going to be a portrait of this love I have for him, this relationship we have, that's the focus. I touched into what are the songs of his that I feel the most haunted by, that haven't already been done a gazillion times, you know. And they were Cais, Outubro, and Morro Velho. You know, I already did Ponta de Areia. everybody's already done Travessia. Like Rosto do Ventre, I don't know. Like there's just so many that we could have done, but those in that moment were the ones that were like really alive in my spirit. Then I wanted to do some songs of mine that have been inspired by him, something about him, my feeling towards him. I wrote Wings for the Thought Bird for this record, encouraged by Wayne. That's why it sounds so crazy. And I wanted to do a song of his, a new song of his that he's written recently because he's so prolific. And he had written that song for Paul Simon during the pandemic. And it's beautiful. And once we started fleshing it out and making the arrangement, I was like, damn, this really sounds like Paul Simon. Like again, what a master. He somehow in that simple melody captured the feeling of how Paul Simon sings. So then we asked Paul Simon to be on it, and yeah, everything came like the song by Guinga. Guinga was at the same festival, the same competition in the 60s when Milton sang Travessia. Guinga was there. He was like up next. He was also gonna play a song. And he was so impacted by seeing Milton play that he wrote that song then. So that's how that song ended up on the record. I learned about that story from I knew Guinga before. I learned about that story and said, let's do this song. So everything kind of came like
Together.
That, piece by piece.
Everything just came together. And I wanted to ask you about, you said it, Paul Simon. I wanted to ask you about the artists who are featuring in this album. How did those collaborations come about?
Similar to that, like based on relationship, based on everybody, there's some relationship too. So it's like when what the song needs is sparkling, or twinkling. It's like asking a question and there's a correct answer. There's a few correct answers, but first you're gonna go with what you already have a relationship to. So Paul Simon, obviously, Paul Simon. Like Leanne LaHavis, to me, the magic in her voice, it's like one of the only voices, maybe the only voice today that to me gives the same like everything stops the way that Milton's voice does. And they're good friends. I'm a huge fan of hers. She was in Brazil, so that was obvious. And then Maria Gadu is a dear friend of Milton's. She was in town the day we were recording vocals for Milton. Tim Bernardes was at the barbecue at Milton's house, so I asked him to come upstairs and sing. It was like Lula Galvão. I've adored him for so long. Shabaka Hutchings is a dear friend. He happened to be in Brazil while we were doing the overdubs for Saudade das Avós. It's just like, it's like this, Something about Outubro felt like it needed to be flute. Elena Pinderhughes, I know her brother was a student of mine at Harvard. It's like all of these things, it's like, yeah, you're bringing together everything that you have in the landscape to make this portrait.
Everything just happened naturally as you were describing, as it seems.
I wouldn't say naturally because it was a lot of work.
Yes.
But I would say organically.
Organically, yes. That's a very accurate way to put it. I wanted to ask you also, the album, it's going to come up on vinyl as well?
Yes, and it's gonna sound better. I mean, I want everybody to listen to it anywhere and everywhere they can. And I know not everybody can afford a vinyl. And we did so much work with Arthur Luna, Fernando Lodeiro, Oscar Sampano. We worked so hard on the textures, on the mix, on the sonic world, that I feel it would be like you're gonna miss something if you don't hear it on vinyl. I think so. I hope that people will really experience it in that format.
And last question, I wanted to ask you, do you intend to play some of the songs when you do a show here in Brazil? It's something that you are thinking about, it's on your mind. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought, I mean, it's true, his last tour was the farewell tour. So I didn't think we were gonna do anything live. I thought it's just, well, it's an offering of an album, but I just heard him the other day say that he wants to do some special concerts. So let's see.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that would be amazing. Amazing. We are very looking forward to it. It would be such a special moment, I think.
Same.
Esperanza, I wanted to thank you so much for the interview. We are very anxious to listen to the whole album. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for the talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
You too.